what keeps me going is like the doing something different, trying new things, really like delivering for our clients. We're in a very creative industry. We get to come up with a lot of creative concepts and ideas, and that's where I'm always challenging myself is what can I do different? Like how I don't want to stay stagnant. How do I adapt with a industry that's been evolving a lot over the last 5 years? How do we stay current? Those are the things that I guess the creative side, the experiential side, where that's what's that's what's fun for me. So that's what keeps me pushing and keeps me challenging myself and learning more. When there's no one really doing that for me, right? I have to do it myself. So,
welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about leaders and focus on your strengths. When you focus on your strengths, you're able to really create a level of mastery in certain domains of your business, and that can propel you forward. You can hire talented people around that, and that is a formula I see that most companies do. It's not the, trying to be all things to all people or just being a leader. This does come with a dark side, though, which I will explain in a few minutes. But our special guest today is Lauren McSorley. She is a co-founder of LMH Experiences. They do a lot of corporate, virtual and in-person events. They help the planning of that and all of the things in between to create incredible experiences. That being said, we're going to talk about leaders focus on your strengths. When you identify your strengths and you know what you're best at, maybe it's marketing or maybe it's sales or maybe it's IT or something else, you can double down on that and triple down on it, and you can hire around you. And that is a formula that I see quite often. Now, one of the dark sides of that is when you hold on for too long, because one of the things I've seen is a lot of leaders try to position themselves as the MVP of their company, the most valuable player. And if you're the most valuable player in your company isn't worth that much. Sorry to say that directly, but when you create more leadership across the company, when you are not just the only one pulling people along or in that domain, even if your zone of genius is marketing, then you are able to build a team around you and you can share that knowledge and that level of genius with others, and you can build a stronger team, and you can start letting go and rising up to being the real people leader or the compound leader inside your book. And if those terms don't make sense to you, then you want to make sure you check out the free training that we have coming up. It is training.coreelevation.com. Inside there, I didn't even introduce myself, but I'm Gene Hammett. I am a CEO coach, a founder coach, and we help companies that are in growth mode create the kind of leadership that now creates a stronger foundation for growth or a stronger foundation for the company to work without you. And so if you are always pulling them along, then you want to make sure to get out of that mode so that you can have leaders at all levels of the company. I'm not saying everyone can be a leader, but I'm saying that you want to make sure that you're developing the leaders in your team so that you can actually focus on what you do best. And all that really kind of fits in with today's topic. So if you want to sign up for that free training, just go to training.coreelevation.com. It's absolutely free, and it will help you be a better leader, help you grow your company. Think about this topic today. Think about what your strengths are. Now, here's the interview with Lauren. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
hi, I'm great, Gene. How are you?
I am fantastic. We're going to have a great interview today to talk about your leadership principles. Before we dive into this, tell us about your company, LMH Experiences.
I'd love to. LMH Experiences is a full service corporate event planning company. We work with clients nationwide as well as in Canada and the UK on anything from a small elevated executive dinner all the way up to a multi-day conference for hundreds of people. We really pride ourselves in taking an ordinary corporate event and turning it into an experience that wows and is memorable for our clients.
Well, being a speaker, I love events, and I appreciate all the work that happens in the background. It's amazing orchestration of this. Given the fact that you're in events, I'm just kind of curious, there's been a huge shift since COVID with virtual. Now there's lots of people doing hybrids and there's different elements. Where do you see the industry going over the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think there's been a heavy emphasis on virtual, obviously, since COVID, and our company really pivoted and thrived during that time. We have an excellent, trusted network of virtual vendors who we create really unique stories with. And I am biased, but I think our virtual experiences are some of the most creative and unique virtual experiences out there. I think now we're seeing the industry pivot a little bit more back to in person. But I think everyone's trying to find like what that right balance is between the in-person and virtual mix. So rather than seeing it as one or the other, companies are starting to use it as a marketing strategy to incorporate both. Um, and our clients are really, loving exploring that with us because we not only plan the events for them, but we love to collect data of the events. So, you know, what was your attrition rate? What was the engagement rate like? And we use those data and statistics to help us make better and smarter decisions for them going forward. So we can tell them, how much money do you need to contribute to your virtual budget versus your in-person budget. So I think virtual is going to be in the mix, like going forward. It'll just be interesting over the next 2 years to see where it finds its place within everyone's marketing strategies.
I can tell you as a speaker, it's a little bit hard, especially when you try to be a little bit funny or have a little bit of like engagement with the audience and everyone's on mute
Dark
and
room. Yeah.
and it's silent. And
Yep.
then honestly, the hardest part I think is as soon as the speech is over, when you do a good job, you're used to like people going, "Oh, I really love this. I can use this," or this story reminding me of whatever. And you don't get that in a virtual experience. You're just like, cut it off and you're
Yeah.
done.
And I think where our team comes into play and where they're so great is we're always an MC on the event. So we're never leaving a vendor, hanging by themselves. We always have one of our staff members who's really there to try to hype the audience up, try to get them to turn their cameras on. We're doing engagements in the chat, we're doing polls. We're really making it as engaging of an experience as possible. I can't tell you how painful it is for me to sit on a virtual event where it's just someone speaking for an hour and there's no feedback or interaction. Because that's what makes a good event, right? That's what makes an event memorable is like the interaction with people. And I think what we try to get across to our clients is you can still have that in a virtual format. You don't have to be in person to have that type of engagement with people. So.
Well, we're not here to talk about virtual and live and in-person events, and even like the service that you provide. So I want to look at the team behind you. Like we were talking about this before we can record. Like you've got a small team, but you've grown fast. And I'm just kind of curious, what would you say is your biggest leadership principle that has guided your success?
Yeah, I think when it comes to leadership, it's something that I'm still learning about all the time. Being a leader in an organization is a lot different than being a leader of your own company. And it's something that I am always striving to be better at and learn more about. And I think what I've learned so far, and what my co-founder Mary as well, is we try to find people who are driven, people who have a desire to work within a team. And we really want them to feel supported and like we're a team that they can count on and that they're not, isolated, especially working remotely. It's really hard to make sure everyone feels like they have a place, make sure everyone feels supported and like they have someone to come to. Um, so I think keeping those principles in mind, making sure it feels like a team environment, making sure that people feel supported. And then overall, I think as a leader, one of my most important kind of pillars that I always go back to is, okay, what am I good at? What are my strong suits? I can't do everything and I'm not good at everything. So let me find people that are and people that I trust. And then, let me give them the autonomy and the support that they need to go and do those things on their own. And it's easier said than done, but we're always trying. That's what we're striving for.
This is a common approach to leadership is to find your talent. It's even part of the conversation I've had with my young son who just went to college
Yeah.
is, yeah, your grades matter, but what's really most important is to find where you or most talented at. And when you talk about, what you're good at, and I see this as a really good formula inside a business. You said you got a co-founder, Mary. I would bet that she has a complementary set of skills to yours. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we're very different in our in our strong suits. Definitely, we complement each other very well.
And that's a really good formula across looking at hundreds and hundreds of companies like this, because that's one reason why I do this podcast and focus on growth oriented companies is to look at the patterns. So when you are able to identify your strengths, you're able, I guess, hire people that do the things that you don't want to do, that you're not good at, and that are really good in their domains, whether it be technical or marketing or something like that. So how did you decide what your strengths were?
Yeah, I think I come from I've worked in events for about 15 years now, and my previous role before starting my own company was in a startup. Um, and it allowed me to try a lot of different roles and a lot of different responsibilities in a very quick and fast-paced environment. And I think really quickly I learned what I found myself absolutely drowning in and really struggling with, and what I found myself like really enjoying and passionate about. Um, and I think the things I'm good at are the things that I enjoy. And so if I find myself feeling like, oh, this is really a task, or oh, this is, hard for me to get through, I know it's not something that is my strong suit, and I'll try my hardest to learn it. But at some point, I think I just got to a point where I said, if I'm not having fun with something, it's probably not something that I'm, you know, by nature excelling at.
We've been talking with Lauren here, and I wanted to interrupt and say, when you find your strengths, you can really create a very good experience at work and a high performance. So, how do you find your strengths? One of the things I've learned over the years is it's usually an area where you don't even know that you have this thing. It just comes natural to you. And you think it may comes natural to everyone else. So if you have to think about where people look at the work you do and maybe they praise you and you're like, it was easy for me. And so that is a good signal to you that that's one of your strengths. And then you can double down on that. I really do believe this. And if you want to take this a step further, I do martial arts, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and one of the most famous martial artists ever is Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee has said this famous quote. I'm paraphrasing, I'm sure it's not the exact quote, but I fear not the man who knows 1,000 kicks, but the one who has practiced one kick 1,000 times. So imagine you having that level of focus inside of your strengths and rising to the point of mastery and genius level. That is a driving force in your business. And then you can hire people around you. You don't I will say that you can't just let go of the weaknesses if you're in leadership, because if you are not a good communicator, it's going to come back to get you. Let's go back to the conversation with Lauren. I definitely know that the feeling of when you're good at something that you can actually do it all day long. You can get lost in flow, as they say. Time passes by. I'm sure you've had those moments at work. When you do focus on your strengths, sometimes there's a weakness to this. And I won't have to, I won't project on you what the weakness is, but there are some things where people are good at things and they struggle to let go of the good so that they can stay in their zone of genius. Did you have any kind of struggle like that?
I think one of the complementary things to one of the things that I don't know if it's a good skill or if it's a frustrating skill or a frustrating thing, but I have a true entrepreneurial spirit. I like to hop around from project to project. I get bored very easily. So even if I'm good at something, I'm okay usually to let it go. I want someone else to typically take something over so that I can explore and try something new. I have a hard time sometimes fully transitioning what I'm doing off to someone, teaching them all the way, because that's not really my strong suit either, is teaching a task. It's more, doing it and moving on to the next thing. So I wouldn't say I'm someone who doesn't like to pass things off to others, but I see what you mean, that could be something that gets in the way sometimes.
I when I look at the patterns across a lot of companies and there's one specifically that stands out. They got to about 40 million, and the CEO was really good at marketing. It makes
Mhm.
sense. And he's doubling down on marketing. So he's the CEO, CMO, director of marketing, and also manager of marketing. And he had like 7 people underneath him. And I just was, being a coach to him, I was like, at some point in time, you're going to have to start giving up some of this and like build a marketing team with levels of leadership and decision authority and whatnot. And he's like, yeah, but this is who we are. This is what made us successful. But you can probably see it too. Like at some point in time, if you don't let go and build the team around you, you will be limiting the growth of the company. Have you ever thought about that when it comes to strengths?
I think so. Yeah, we recently redid. We recently invested quite a bit in redoing like our website and our branding and all of that. And one of the things that the agency that we worked with talked a lot about was I think it was like the glass bottle view, where we're in it, so like we don't really see a lot of the angles that other people might see. And that really hit home with me. And I think I try to think about that when I'm having a hard time giving a task off to someone else. Is like, what if they have a better way to do it? What if they have a better view of it? And you don't really get that if you're managing every point of it. So that's something that we've tried to, intertwine into other areas of our business.
Well, we're sitting here, Lauren, talking about leadership principles that drive success and focusing on your strengths certainly is a big play. I'm kind of curious, and we're just reforming here a little bit. What's one of the biggest mistakes you made in your entrepreneurship journey as it relates to leadership? Does anything come to mind?
Um, I think in the past I've maybe underestimated how much work something is, and not properly understanding or managing people's workloads. And I've been on the other side of that before, obviously working for startups and, you know, where that's not really regulated. So I think now really understanding, okay, how much time does a task and project actually take, and what is this person actually doing on a day-to-day basis, and what's that workload like time-wise and mentally for them. I try to understand that a bit more before just assuming that they can take on more. And I think that's something in the past, when you're growing and you're really busy, it's hard to prioritize that, especially when you're working in client services.
I've got a little bit of a rule I use, and tends to work pretty well. So my first thought might be, this is going to take me 2 hours.
Mhm.
I can be honest with you, I have
Double
to
that.
triple it
Yeah. Yeah,
because
like,
I know how the details are, the nuance and the research that goes into things, even with, ChatGPT being your research partner and thought partner. It still takes time to do things. Now, some things can be done really fast, but I definitely have made that mistake too, Lauren. Um, Leadership, as you grow your company and scale, you said you're always learning. I'm just kind of curious, like, what is your way of challenging yourself to grow as a leader?
a good question. I think when you own your own business, it could be easy to just say, okay, like we're gonna kind of stay where we're at now. There's no one pushing us to grow. Like not everyone is looking to grow a business to 40 million or,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but what keeps me going is like the doing something different, trying new things, really like delivering for our clients. We're in a very creative industry. We get to come up with a lot of creative concepts and ideas, and that's where I'm always challenging myself is what can I do different? Like how I don't want to stay stagnant. How do I adapt with a industry that's been evolving a lot over the last 5 years? How do we stay current? Those are the things that I guess the creative side, the experiential side, where that's what's that's what's fun for me. So that's what keeps me pushing and keeps me challenging myself and learning more. When there's no one really doing that for me, right? I have to do it myself. So.
Let me break in here one more time. I asked her about how do you challenge yourself as a leader? Well, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is you've got to have a level of self-awareness. Now, most people don't have this level of self-awareness. They have what I would call karaoke confidence. That karaoke confidence is you know, how someone steps on stage, they grab the mic and they start singing and they think they sound pretty good because they're bellowing that music, but they're definitely not Dolly Parton or Nickelback or whoever it is they're singing. They are living in karaoke confidence. Well, how does that relate to this? Well, I think that when you are not self-aware of what your limitations are, you're not self-aware of what is got a grip on you, it's hard to address those challenges. And that's one reason why people hire coaches like me. And I'm not saying you should hire me, but if you are curious or if you want to just talk to someone about, you know, how to be a better leader, then I don't know of a better person to do that with. So just send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. But the real funny thing here is don't let your karaoke confidence, you know, get in the way of your leadership. When you think about your chance to grow and challenge yourself as a leader, that will always pay off. It may not pay off immediately, but long term, you working on your skills, working on empowering others, working on accountability, conflict resolution, working on your communication, working on your ability to see a vision and connect the dots for others, and all of those other leadership skills that are so very, very important are necessary for you. And so you've got to challenge yourself to be good at all of them if you want to truly lead an impactful, performance-driven company. Back to Lauren. As we begin to wrap up today's conversation, Lauren, I want to ask you, you know, it's around leadership, but if you focus on your strengths, I would imagine that you're also helping your employees develop, you know, identify and develop their strengths as well. Tell us a little bit about how you approach that.
I hope so. That's something that, we like to prioritize. We do, check-ins all the time. We do biannual reviews. Anytime there's a learning opportunity, like a conference they can attend, or, we do every week, everyone presents something on our team call about a project they've been working on, or, um, we like to do professional development as well. So really just giving everyone a lot of tools that they can dive into when they feel like they need something, giving them a good support network where they feel like they can come to myself and Mary when they have questions. We just started in the last year doing a celebrations channel just on GChat where we all type in, anytime you close a sale, anytime you're excited about, a new event type you came up with or a new vendor you found. And that's been a great way for people to want to be able to add something there, want to share good news with each other, especially, like I said, working remotely. I think sometimes it's hard to have that like personal connection day to day. So just trying to incorporate ways that we can allow them to shine a little bit, and just give them praise when praise is needed, right?
You know, a lot of CEOs, I hope, are taking notes because they suck at giving praise. uh,
Kind of one of those things that falls, on the priority list, but it is so important. And I think you know it's important when you've been in a role that doesn't get a lot of praise. So just yeah, trying to make it a priority for our team definitely is where our head's at.
Well, it's appreciate you being here today on the podcast. I wanted to just kind of reflect back while you're here listening in, but also mainly for the audience. We've been talking about how leaders focus on strengths, and certainly this is a powerful approach to take as you grow and scale your business. You do have to be careful. You want to have a co-founder that complements you because if they have the same exact strengths, it doesn't have the same effect inside of the growth of the company. From what we've seen, we also want to make sure that you really are identifying and finding your strengths and honing those. And I can relate to this because I live in a world of mastery. And I really want you to think about, how to really master certain elements of your business that allow you to grow forward. And then you can hire for talented people in those other areas as you grow forward. You also want to keep challenging yourself to grow. And so, Lauren, thank you for being here on the podcast. Well, when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.